Looking back, I now realize there were so many warning signs I ignored. When you're in love, you sometimes miss the obvious clues. Your heart sees what it wants to see, while your intuition tries in vain to warn you. My name is Penny, and this is the story of how I met my husband, John, and how I learned the hard way that love sometimes comes with unexpected baggage. John and I met at TechOne Solutions, where we both worked as software developers. Unlike most of our colleagues, who were deeply absorbed in coding talk, John had an easy confidence about him. He stood out, not just because he was handsome but because he had a quiet, steady charm that made people feel at ease. One morning, he casually stopped by my desk, placed a cup of coffee in front of me, and asked, "Did you catch the new episode of Black Mirror last night?" That simple question changed everything. We quickly bonded over shared interests, sci-fi movies, weekend hiking trips, and a mutual love for cheesy B-movies. What started as casual coffee breaks turned into long lunch conversations, and before I knew it, our friendship had blossomed into something more. Within a year, we were inseparable. Then one evening, John made a suggestion. "I want you to meet my family," he said while we were having dinner. "They're really down to earth. You'll love them." I was excited and a little nervous. Meeting a significant other's family always feels like a big step, but I trusted John. A few days later, we made the drive to his mother's house. His family lived in a modest but well-kept home. As we pulled into the driveway, I noticed children's toys scattered across the yard, a sign of a house filled with life. Addison, John's older sister, opened the door with her toddler, Logan, in her arms. She greeted us warmly, hugging John tightly before calling out, "Mom, they're here." Kennedy, John's mother, appeared from the kitchen wearing an apron and a welcoming smile. "There's my successful son," she exclaimed, pulling him into a warm embrace before turning to me. "And you must be Penny. John has told us so much about you." Dinner went smoothly, for the most part. The family seemed genuinely proud of John's success at work, yet, beneath the laughter and casual conversation, I felt something was a little off. I couldn't quite place it until Addison brought up her son's upcoming birthday. "John," she said with hopeful eyes, "Logan really wants that new Nintendo game with the dinosaurs." Before John could respond, his mother jumped in with a laugh. "Let him spoil his nephew a little. He's doing so well at his job." Then, looking at me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, she added, "I just hope that after you two get married, he won't forget that he has a mother and sister to take care of." Everyone chuckled, but something in her words unsettled me. At the time, I brushed it off as an innocent joke. I had no idea how much truth lay beneath her words. 7 months later, John and I were married in a small but beautiful ceremony. We moved into a cozy apartment near work and began our new life together. I thought we were building something special. I thought we were happy. But almost immediately after our honeymoon, the requests for money started coming in. At first, it was small things. Addison needed help buying school supplies for Logan. Kennedy needed money for a home repair. John, being the generous person he was, always helped without hesitation. I didn't mind at first. After all, families support each other. But then the requests became more frequent. $200 here, $150 there. Every week, there was some new financial emergency, and John always opened his wallet. One night, while we were washing dishes, I finally brought it up. "Hun," I said carefully, "can we talk about something important?" John looked over at me, hands covered in soap suds. "Of course, what's on your mind?" I hesitated, then finally asked, "Don't you think you've been giving your family a little too much money?" He tensed slightly. "I know it's a lot," he admitted, "but I've always helped them, ever since I got my first job." "But your mom has a pension, and Addison has a husband," I pointed out gently. "Shouldn't Ethan be supporting his own family?" John sighed heavily and leaned against the counter. "Ethan hasn't worked in over a year." I blinked in surprise. "What? Why not?" "He quits every job he gets," John explained, running his fingers through his hair in frustration. "He always has an excuse. The work is too hard, the boss is unfair, the commute is too long, there's always something." I set down the dish towel and faced him. "I love how much you care about your family, but we have to think about our future too. We want to buy a house someday, maybe start our own family. If we keep giving them money like this, how will we ever be able to save?" John was quiet for a moment, then finally nodded. "You're right. We should set up a savings account, one we don't touch for any reason. We'll put money in every month for our future." I felt relief wash over me. "That sounds perfect." For 3 months, things improved. We focused on our own goals, and for the first time, it felt like we were truly working toward a future together. Then came the Sunday dinner at Kennedy's house. From the moment we arrived, the atmosphere felt different, tense. Addison set the table with tight, hurried movements. Ethan lounged on the couch, scrolling through his phone. Kennedy smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. As we ate, the conversation was stiff. Then, as expected, Kennedy turned to John and asked sweetly, "John, honey, I noticed you haven't sent any money lately. Is everything okay at work?" I set my fork down. "Here we go." John cleared his throat. "Mom, Penny and I are saving up for a house. We're planning for our future." The room fell into silence. Addison's face twisted in anger. "A house? While I'm struggling to afford prenatal vitamins? Do you know how expensive baby things are?" My patience snapped. "Maybe your husband should think about that before having another baby." Addison burst into tears. Ethan finally looked up. "I'm trying. Do you know how hard it is to find a job? I'm dealing with depression." Something in me hardened. "Depression didn't stop you from deciding to have another kid, did it?" Chaos erupted. Addison sobbed. Ethan yelled. Kennedy glared at me, her face twisting in rage. "You're turning my son against his family. We were happy before you came along." I stood, chair scraping loudly. "Wanting a future with my husband isn't selfish." John grabbed my hand. "Mom, stop." But Kennedy wasn't done. And neither was I. I wasn't sitting at the dinner table, making pointed remarks while staring at the ceiling. I wasn't saying things like, "I wonder if your wife would mind passing the salt," in a tone laced with sarcasm. No, I was just sitting there, enduring the awkward tension, trying to navigate the complex dynamics of my husband's family. I knew that dealing with them was part of my journey with John, and despite the difficulties, we were determined to keep moving forward. Balancing our own life and dreams while still supporting his family was no easy task, but we were committed to making it work. While Kennedy and Addison continued to act distant and cold toward me, something incredible happened at work. The company John and I worked for, TechOne, landed a huge contract with Global Tech, one of the biggest names in the industry. It was a game changer for us. We both had played key roles in securing the deal, and the rewards were beyond what we had imagined. Our salaries nearly doubled overnight, giving us a level of financial security we had never experienced before. Even with this newfound success, John and I didn't go on a wild spending spree. We continued to live modestly, making smart choices, but we allowed ourselves to enjoy a few well-earned luxuries. We replaced John's old, worn-out sedan with a new hybrid SUV, something reliable for the future. We also started taking occasional weekend trips to the coast, enjoying the fresh air and time away from stress. As our savings account grew, so did our dreams. We started seriously browsing real estate listings, discussing neighborhoods, and planning for a future where we owned a home together. For the first time since we got married, I felt like we were truly making progress, building something just for us. But family dinners remained the same, tense, uncomfortable, and filled with subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, jabs. During one particularly strained dinner, Kennedy decided she had something to say. I was quietly eating my pot roast, trying to keep to myself, when she suddenly cleared her throat dramatically. "I saw your vacation pictures on Facebook," she said, her sharp eyes locked on me. "Palm Springs, wasn't it? That resort looked expensive." I could feel John tense up beside me. "Here we go again." Kennedy's voice took on that all-too-familiar tone of disapproval. "Infinity pools, luxury spa treatments. Really, John, it's not exactly appropriate to flaunt that kind of lifestyle when your sister is struggling to raise 2 children." The irony of her statement was almost laughable. As she spoke, the constant clicking of a keyboard filled the room. Ethan, Addison's husband, was at his desk, completely absorbed in his latest video game. It was the 3rd brand new release he had purchased that month. I couldn't help myself. "Speaking of managing money," I said, nodding toward Ethan, "there are plenty of job openings in tech support at our company. Good pay, excellent benefits." For a brief second, the clicking stopped. Then, louder than before, the sound resumed. Addison's face turned red, her eyes flashing with anger. "You have no idea what it's like," she snapped. "Try being a mother of 2 before you judge us." "Oh, wait, you wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" The comment stung, but I kept my face neutral. I could have reminded her that having children was her choice. I could have pointed out that deciding to have a second baby while unemployed wasn't exactly a financially wise move. I could have even mentioned that Ethan's gaming expenses alone could have easily covered the prenatal vitamins Addison constantly complained about needing on Facebook. But I didn't. Instead, I simply shook my head and took another bite of my pot roast. Later that night, on our drive home, I found myself thinking about the monthly money transfers John still sent to his sister. They weren't small amounts, money that could have gone toward furnishing a room in our future home. But for now, our increased salaries allowed us to absorb these expenses without it derailing our own plans. Keeping the peace came at a price, and, at least for now, we could afford it. As time went on, Addison became less subtle about her expectations. What had once been vague hints about financial struggles turned into full-blown demands. She sent us detailed gift registries for every possible occasion: Christmas, Easter, birthdays, even Mother's Day. Each list was filled with expensive, high-end items she expected us to buy for her and the kids. One evening, I showed John her latest email, which contained an extravagant Christmas list. Among the items were designer clothes, the latest iPad, and toys that cost more than our monthly car payment. John sighed, rubbing his forehead. "I'll talk to her. This is getting ridiculous." He did talk to her, but the conversation didn't go well. I could hear Addison's shrill voice through the phone, accusing John of putting me before his real family. "I'll tell Mom you care more about your wife's feelings than your own blood," she shrieked. Seeing John struggle with these confrontations was exhausting. So, one night while he was in the shower, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I opened Addison's email and started editing her list. The $900 designer purse, replaced with a $500 alternative. The $1,200 iPad, downgraded to a $700 tablet. Every single item was cut in price by at least half. "Here," I said, showing John the revised list. "This is what we're doing." He hesitated. "Addison won't be happy." "Addison is never happy," I said simply, "but this is still more than generous." When the gifts arrived, the response was predictable. Addison called John in tears. Kennedy left a voicemail dripping with contempt, accusing us of sending cheap knockoffs. At the next family dinner, their glares could have set me on fire. "I just don't understand why you couldn't get the exact things I asked for," Addison whined. I smiled sweetly. "Oh, but didn't you know? It's not about the price tag, it's the thought that counts, and we put a lot of thought into these choices." The look she gave me could have curdled milk. A year passed, filled with passive-aggressive comments and tense family gatherings. Then came the Easter dinner that changed everything. With a smug expression, Addison stood up at the table. "I have wonderful news," she announced. "We're expecting baby number 3. I froze. A third child, with no income and no stable home. My mind raced, calculating how much more they would expect from us. John sat beside me, motionless. Ethan, unsurprisingly, didn't look up from his phone. Kennedy, however, was thrilled. "Oh, my darling," she gushed, embracing Addison. 3 beautiful grandchildren. Then she turned to me, her eyes glinting. "You should take notes, Penny. Addison is such a wonderful example of a real woman. Here she is, about to have her 3rd child, and you still haven't given John any." I set my fork down carefully. When I spoke, my voice was steady. "I believe in doing things in the right order. First, build a stable foundation, like having a home and being able to provide for our children without handouts. Then, start a family." Kennedy and Addison exchanged a glance before bursting into laughter. "Oh, Penny," Kennedy said condescendingly, "you're so corporate. Life isn't about money and houses." "No," I agreed, sipping my water, "it's about responsibility." The tension in the room was thick, but I didn't care. Let them think I was cold. Let them mock me. One day, my future children would have security, and that was something no one could take away.